Welcome back, dear listener. I hope this evening finds you comfortably tucked in, ready to unwind and let your mind drift into the captivating world of ancient history. Before we begin our tale, I'd love to know where in the world you're joining us from tonight. Perhaps you're nestled in a cosy flat in London, just as the city's hustle and bustle begins to quiet down. Or maybe you're savouring a lazy Sunday morning, sipping coffee at a sunlit kitchen table in Sydney. Wherever you may be, I'm honoured to be a part of your day. If you enjoy these relaxing journeys through the annals of history, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tonight, we embark on a fascinating exploration of some of history's most notorious and enigmatic figures, the emperors of ancient Rome. At the height of its power, the Roman Empire stretched from the misty moors of Britain to the sun-baked sands of Egypt, encompassing a dazzling mosaic of cultures, languages, and peoples. At the centre of it all stood the eternal city itself, Rome, a metropolis of marble, might, and magnificence. Here, at the pulsing heart of the empire, larger-than-life personalities fought, schemed, and struggled for ultimate power. The emperors who ruled Rome were no ordinary men. They were demigods, wielding absolute authority over millions of subjects. But behind the imperial facade, these were flesh and blood human beings, as flawed and fallible as any of us. Some were brilliant statesmen who expanded the bounds of empire. Others were mad tyrants, drunk on power and debauchery. But whether revered or reviled, the names of Rome's emperors have echoed through history, captivating the imaginations of generations. As we delve into the scandalous lives of the Caesars, we'll encounter tales of astonishing excess, devastating betrayals, and chilling brutality. But we'll also uncover surprising moments of tenderness, humour, and even redemption. The real stories behind these legendary rulers are often stranger than fiction, full of unexpected twists and turns that rival the most dramatic Hollywood epics. So make yourself comfortable, dear friend, and let me spin for you the remarkable saga of Rome's emperors. Close your eyes and let my words paint a vivid picture in your mind's eye, transporting you back to a time when the eternal city glittered at the centre of the known world. Hear the clatter of chariot wheels on cobbled streets. Breathe in the spiced air of the markets. Feel the marble monuments beneath your fingertips. Our story begins with the very first emperor, Augustus, who rose from the ashes of civil war to usher in a golden age of peace and prosperity. Born Gaius Octavius, he was the great-nephew and adopted son of Julius Caesar. When Caesar was brutally assassinated, the 18-year-old Octavius found himself thrust into the cutthroat world of Roman politics. But the young man proved to be a master strategist, outmaneuvering his rivals to become the sole ruler of the Roman world. He was a man of many faces, a brilliant administrator who stabilized the empire's finances, a cunning politician who brokered alliances and neutralized enemies, and a generous patron of the arts who transformed Rome with grand public works. Augustus was careful to cloak his power in the trappings of republican tradition, never openly declaring himself a monarch. Instead, he styled himself first citizen, piously claiming to have restored the ancient liberties of Rome. But there was no disguising the fact that he held absolute authority, governing with a light yet firm hand. Under Augustus, the empire flourished, ushering in the famous Pax Romana, the Roman peace. It was an era of prosperity and cultural blossoming, as poets like Virgil and Horace sang the praises of the imperial regime. Everywhere one looked, monuments to Augustus's glory rose from the earth, temples, arches, aqueducts, proclaiming his godlike status. But even as he basked in the glow of success, shadows gathered at the edges of Augustus's golden reign. His personal life was marred by heartbreak and scandal, from the untimely deaths of his beloved heirs to the alleged adultery of his daughter Julia. And for all his talk of republican virtue, Augustus had forever transformed Rome, concentrating power in the hands of a single fallible man. As Augustus entered his twilight years, the question of succession loomed over the empire. With his chosen heirs dead and gone, the aging emperor was forced to turn to his stepson Tiberius, a dour and withdrawn man who inspired little affection in his subjects. When Augustus finally breathed his last in 14 AD, it was Tiberius who took up the imperial mantle, the first in a long line of emperors who would shape the destiny of Rome. But Tiberius, as we shall see, was a far cry from the genial and accomplished Augustus. Brooding and paranoid, he retreated from the spotlight, ruling from the shadows of his villa on the island of Capri. Under his reign, a pall of suspicion and recrimination fell over Rome, as the emperor's feared enforcers rooted out any hint of disloyalty or dissent. As our story unfolds, we'll meet a colourful cast of characters who followed in Tiberius's footsteps: the mad and depraved Caligula, the wise and scholarly Claudius, the artistic yet tyrannical Nero. Each emperor left his mark on the empire, for good or ill, shaping the course of history with his ambitions, fears, and follies. But through it all, the spirit of Rome endured, a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of the Roman people. Even in the darkest days of imperial misrule, the empire remained a beacon of civilization, a shining light in a world of chaos and barbarism. So let us journey back in time now, you and I, to walk the streets of ancient Rome and witness the triumphs and tragedies of its most famous sons. Rest your head, dear listener, and let the eternal city work its magic on your dreams. Tomorrow, our adventure continues. The Roman Empire was a realm of paradoxes, a civilization of profound achievements in engineering, art, and law, yet also a stage for some of history's most notorious tyrants. From the heights of power, the emperors of Rome indulged in debaucheries, unleashed horrific violence, and engaged in sordid betrayals that still shock us centuries later. But to understand the twisted intrigues of the imperial court, we must first picture the empire over which these men reigned supreme. At its height, the Roman Empire stretched from the mist-shrouded hills of Britain to the baking sands of Arabia, from the foaming Atlantic to the shimmering Euphrates. All roads led to Rome, the eternal city, where the emperor sat enthroned in unrivaled power and splendor. An emperor's word was law, his whims were policy, and his desires were the obsession of millions. In the imperial palace, high on the Palatine Hill, amid marbled halls and colonnaded courtyards, the great game of politics played out in whispered conspiracies and sudden coups, as men schemed and murdered for the ultimate prize. But let us begin our tale with the first and greatest of the emperors, Augustus, the adopted son and heir of Julius Caesar. Born Gaius Octavius, this sickly youth seemed an unlikely candidate for greatness. But through cunning, ruthlessness, and sheer force of will, he clawed his way to the top of the bloody heap that was Roman politics in the late Republic. After his victory over Mark Antony and Cleopatra, Octavian stood alone, master of the Roman world. Humbly proclaiming the restoration of the Republic, he held the reins of power as first citizen, or princeps. The age of the emperors had begun. Under Augustus, Rome reached the pinnacle of its power and prosperity. The Pax Romana, the Roman peace, reigned from the Rhine to the Nile. Great public works transformed the capital: baths, aqueducts, theatres, temples. As Augustus himself boasted, "I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble." But the question of succession haunted Augustus in his later years. Having no son of his own, he turned to his stepson Tiberius, a dour and uncharismatic man who had proven himself on the battlefield. When Augustus breathed his last in 14 AD, Tiberius took up the imperial purple and settled onto the throne for a long and unhappy reign. Where Augustus had been genial and conciliatory, Tiberius was gloomy and mistrustful. Leaving Rome for the Isle of Capri, he descended into a fog of paranoia and perversion. Treason trials multiplied as informers preyed on the wealthy, and the old emperor amused himself with scandalous depravities in his pleasure gardens. Tiberius did, however, make one decision with momentous consequences. He named as his heir